Hey friends, what up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Tezayin, Daf 16 from the Megilla. Friends, what do you think Daf 16 talks about? We're going weiter in the Purim story, okay? Some very interesting stories. So let's just jump in. So we're going to start in Daf Tezvav and Beis all the way at the bottom. Last line on the page, Vayimotze Kosuv, and it was found written Kosav mi ba'ilei. Well, one second. It should have said that it was written, I guess, in the past tense, but it says Kasuv, which is Rashi says it means it's like being written presently. So Mlamet Shamshi Mochik v'Gavil Kosev. That Shamshi was a big nudnik, and he was the scribe of Achashverosh. He kept on trying to erase the record of Mordechai, right? That Mordechai did something good by saving the king. So Shamshi kept on trying to erase that record, and Gavriel kept on writing it back. Never-ending loop. Okay. Omer Reb Asi, so it says Reb Asi, Darish Reb Shila Ish Kfar Tamrisa. So Reb Shila, from the man of the village of Tamrisa, says, Umaksav Shalamata Shaluschusun Shalisol Eino Nimchak Ksav Shalamayla Lo Kol Shekain. Friends, that's really beautiful. So it says Reb Asi or Reb Shila Ish Kfar Tamrisa, he says, well, if this writing here on this world, down here, that is meriting the Jews, and it doesn't get erased, so then certainly a writing that is meriting the Jews above in Shemaim is eternal and will never be erased. So the people said to the king, actually nothing has been done to reward Mordechai. Omar Rava says, Rava lo mipnei ohaben es Mordechai el mipnei shesonen es Haman. Now, I guess what it means is that, these people weren't pointing out that nothing had been done to repay Mordechai because they were big Mordechai lovers. Rather, they really hated Haman. Okay. Heichin lo, tana lo heichin. Okay, so it says, so they say that Haman came to tell Achashverosh all about this tree, Asher Heichin Lo, that he prepared for Mordechai, but the teaching is Lo Heichin. No, he actually prepared it for himself. Friends, I have a little bit of coffee here. 1 second. Hopefully that'll wake me up a little bit. I won't fall asleep on you. Ve'asechein leMordechai. Right, so Achashverosh says to Haman, you have to go and do all these great things for Mordechai. Omerle, Manu Mordechai. And Haman says, Mordechai, never heard of him. Omerle HaYehudi. He says, yeah, that Jew. Omerle Tuva Mordechai could be Yehudai. There are lots of Jews named Mordechai. How many Jews do you know named Mordechai? How many Jews do I know named Mordechai? I don't know. It's a good question. Omerle Hayoshev B'Shar Melech. So Achashverosh says, Mordechai the Jew who sits in the gate of the king. Omerle Sagile B'Chad Diskarta. Oh, that Mordechai the Jew. Well, why do we have to make a whole big deal? Why don't we just give him like one village, Inami B'Chad Naira, or a river to collect tolls and taxes? It doesn't sound very, I guess that's how they used to do things. You would just, if you were an official in the government, so you just get like a city and you can just keep all the taxes for yourself. Okay? So that's what they were saying. They were saying, oh, Mordechai, why do we have to give him so much? Just give him like a village, let him take all the tax revenues, and create a slush fund, and he'll be happy. So Omerle Honami Havle. So Achashverosh says, good idea. In addition to schlepping him around town in all this stuff, in all these nice things, so also give him some villages and rivers to collect their tax revenues. Don't neglect any of the things that you just said. Everything you just said, do for Mordechai the Jew. More coffee, 1 second. Mordechai the Jew. So Haman took these garments and the horse. So when he showed up at Mordechai's house, or wherever Mordechai was, so Mordechai was in the middle of a shir. He was recording his podcast. Well, no, he was giving a shir, traditional shir with real people in front of him. And he was demonstrating to them hilchos kmitza, how to do kmitza. Friends, what's kmitza? Kmitza is when you basically take a fistful out of the flour in a flour offering, and he was demonstrating to them how that fistful works. So umachvilu hilchos kmitza l'Rabbanan kevin dechazi Mordechai. Now, when Mordechai noticed that there was a nudnik coming, that Haman was coming, the apik lekable was coming towards him, v'susei miyachet biyodei, and he had a fancy horse with him. Mirtas, Mordechai got a little bit anxious. Omar lu l'Rabbanon, and he said to the rabbis, Hayrishia, this nudnik l'miktal nafshi kaosi is coming to kill me. Zilu mikame, and he suggested to the students that they better get out of there. Dilo sichvu b'gachalto, so you don't get burnt by his coals. Okay, by Yishaitin Esatif Mordechai v'komle litzlosa. So then Mordechai went and he put on his talis and he went to daven. Also Haman came v'yosiv le kamayu, and he sat in front of the students. I mean, I know that Mordechai mentioned that they should go away, but I guess that they're still there. And Haman sits down by the students. V'orich ad desolik Mordechai litzlosa, and he waited until Mordechai finished his prayers. Amalu, and then he said to the students, "V'mayaskisu, no, what are you guys learning? Tell me, Epis." Amule, so they said to Haman, "Bizman shebeis hamikdash kayim." Well, when we had our holy temple in Jerusalem, man dimindav mincha, a fellow who donated a flower offering to the temple, maisi milo kumtze desolta, he would bring a fistful of fine flour, umiskabele, and he would get atoned. He would merit atonement. Omer lahu, and then Haman said to these students, "Asamale kumtze kimcho tidchu," that your fistful of flour is vidachi asar alfe kikre kasbadidi, and it is replacing my 10,000 kikars of silver. Right, that was the amount of money that Haman guaranteed Achashverosh, and he's saying that basically your flour seems to be unraveling my plan. Armale, and Mordechai says to Haman, "Rasha, Yenudnik, Eved Shekana Nechasim, Eved Lemi V'Nechasim Lemi," right? A servant a slave who gets property. Who owns the slave and who owns the property? Memele, the master. And of course, we know from the other day that Haman sold everything that he had to Mordechai for some bread. Okay, so then Haman eventually says, "No, get up, put on these clothing, and ride on this horse. Because the king wants you." So Mordechai says, "Wait a second. I can't just put on this fancy clothing and go on the fancy horse. I have to take a shower first. I have to get a haircut. I can't just put on the royal garments in the state that I'm in now. I have to go to the mikveh. I have to cut my hair." Shadra Esther vasatinu l'chulu beibone. Now at the same time, Esther closed up all of the bathhouses, v'l'chulu umane, and closed all of the barber shops. So therefore, Haman had no choice but to go himself to the mikveh and to wash and to attend to Mordechai at the mikveh. And Haman had to run home and grab some scissors so that he can cut Mordechai's hair. And as Haman was giving Mordechai a haircut, he let out a krechts. He says, "Amaika misnachas." So Mordechai says, "Haman, what are you krechtzing about?" So Haman says, "Gavra ta'avachoshev le'lemalka mikulu rav. Me, the fellow who is more important than all the other important people to the king. Hash lishabi baloni v'sapar. I have to now be a mikveh attendant and a bathhouse attendant and a barber. Armale Rashe." And then Mordechai says to Haman, he says, nudnik. Vilav saper shel Kfar Kartzum ma'isa. Weren't you the barber of Kfar Kartzum? Tanu Haman saper shel Kfar Kartzum hayu. Esem v'shtayim shana. So it turns out that Haman was actually a barber for 22 years. And then after Haman gave Mordechai a haircut, so then so Mordechai put on the clothing, and then Haman, he says to Mordechai, says, "No, go on the horse and ride it." To which Mordechai says, "Look, Lemaise, I'm very weak because I've been fasting for 3 days." So Gochin v'Solik, so he went and he got on the horse, Kisolik, and when he was going on the horse, Boat Bey Poshet kicked Haman. Haman says, "No, doesn't it say in Mishlei bin Foleivecha al Tismach, when your enemy falls down, don't rejoice, don't be happy?" So Mordechai responds, "Hanimili b'Yisrael." That's talking about your Jewish enemy. But you, trample on their high places. So it doesn't apply to you, Mr. Haman. And Haman called out before Mordechai, "This is how it should be made for a fellow, that the king desires him." Wow. I feel like it must have been really embarrassing for Mordechai, being ridden around town and with some nudnik yelling out, ish. I don't know. Would you want that? I don't know. It feels like embarrassing. And then when they were walking in the street of Haman, so he saw so Chazite Barte the Kaima Igra, so Haman's daughter was on the roof and she saw them. Sava, she figured, it must be that her father is riding a horse by the Maske Kami Mordechai. And who's the one schlepping the horse and the fellow? It must be Mordechai's the schlepper, and my father is the fellow who gets to sit there in all of his glory. So Shakla Atzitza Devesa Kise, so she took out the vessel from the bathroom. Yuck. Vishadise Aresha and Davua, and she threw it on her father's head. Yuck. Dali Ene Vichozas Davua, who he looked up and she saw that she just threw the bathroom receptacle with all of her bathroomy stuff on her father. Nafla me'igul la'arav b'meisa, she fell off the roof and she pasha died. That Mordechai returned to the gate of the king. That after this whole embarrassing episode where he was schlepped around town with some nudnik yelling out, so he went back to his mourning by the gate. And Haman went back to his house a mourner and all disgusting. Mourning over the loss of his daughter, and kind of disgusting and stuff and all messed up because of the long afternoon. And then Haman was telling Zeresh, his wife, and anybody there who would listen, I guess, everything that happened. So the pasuk refers to them in the same pasuk as Ohavav, those who love him, and Chacham, of those who are wise. Amr Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan kol Omer Dvar Chachma afilu be'uma sa'olam nikra Chacham. Says Rabbi Yochanan that a fellow who says something smart, even if it's the Uma Sa'olam, even if it's Gentiles, they're still smart. And they said to Haman, they said, look, if this guy Mordechai is Jewish, so you're going to be in trouble. Amrule, they said to him, "In Mishar Shvatim Kaasi, if he comes from one of the other tribes, Yochol Tole, fine, so you have a chance. But even Shevet Yehuda, Vinyamin, V'Ephraim, and Menashe, But if he comes from the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, Ephraim, and Menashe, lo yacholta, you have no chance. Yehuda d'chsev, it says by Judah, Yodcha ba'oref ovecha, that your hand is on the neck of your enemy. Enoch d'chsev, when it says by Benjamin, Ephraim, and Menashe, l'fnei Ephraim, U'Binyamin, U'Menashe, Orua, es gevurasecha, that before Ephraim, Menashe, and Benjamin, arouse your might. Ki nofal tipa lefanov, they said to Haman that you're going to surely fall before him. Darash Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai, says Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai, shtei nefilo salalu lama, how come it says nafal tipol, how come it says falling twice? Amrulo, they said to him, umazo, mishula la'afar, mishula la'kochavim, this nation is compared both to dirt as well as to stars. Kishen Yordan ad offer, uchshen olin ad l'kochavim, that when they're down, they're pushed down to the ground. But when they're givaldig up to the stars. And then the officers, the officials of the king, arrived to Haman by Filu, and they rushed to take out Haman to the event, to the party, to the feast. That they brought Haman when he was like Bibahala, he was all confused and he was in a daze and he didn't have a chance to wash off the excrement and stuff that was thrown upon him by his daughter. A real mess. Esther says to Achashverosh, she describes how she and her nation have been sold. That there's no what did Rashi say? Shovet choshesh. That Haman is not even considering, not even taking the interest of the king into account. Amrlo, she said to Achashverosh, Tsar zeh, this nudnik over here, Eino shove benezek hamelech, he's not thinking about the damage that he's causing to the king. Ikne ba bevashti v'katla, hashte ikane bedidi umibai lemiktali. Look, he got upset with Vashti, he killed Vashti. Now he's getting upset with me, he wants to kill me. He's not thinking about the king and the king's interests over here. He's only thinking about his own interests. Achashverosh then says to Esther, Vayomer lomali. How come it says Vayomer twice? Right? It says Vayomer melech Achashverosh, Vayomer Esther Amalka. How come twice? So Omer Rababo says Rababo betchila ayde turgaman. First he spoke to her by way of a translator, Kevin to Omerle. Once she said to him, look, I come from a kingly family, from the family of Shaul. Miyad, from the ancestry of Shaul, Miyad Vayomer the Esther Mako. Then he said directly to Esther, once she made it clear to him that she also was from kingly roots. Although we said the other day that Achashverosh was actually like a self-made king. He didn't come from kingly ancestry. Okay, moving along. And then Esther says, this nudnik over here, this evil nudnik Haman, that she was pointing towards Achashverosh, and then an angel came and redirected her pointing towards Haman. All right. And then the king Achashverosh, he got all upset and he got up, and he came back from the garden, right? It says that he got up and he was upset and he went to the garden. Then it says he came back from the garden. Makeshiva lekima. We compare his returning from the garden to when he got up and went to the garden. Makima bechema. Just like when he got up and went to the garden, he was very, very upset. Shiva bechema. Also when he came back, he was very, very upset. Because when he went out to the garden, he found ministering angels, and they appeared to him, to Achashverosh, like men, like people, and they were uprooting the trees in the bustani, in the garden. And he said to them, what are you doing? Why are you uprooting the trees over here? They said to him, what Haman told us to. Also the Vesei. So he went back inside to say, what the heck did you tell these people to do? From a nofel alamita. And then Haman, he discovers, is fallen on the bed. Nofel nafami baile. So the Gemara says, why does it say that he's falling? Shouldn't it say that he fell on the bed? So Amar Belazar, Melamich Malach vipilo oleo. And it teaches that an angel came and threw Haman onto the bed. He kept on trying to get up, but the angel kept on throwing him back on. Amar Vaimi Besa, Vaimi Bara. And Achashverosh says, what is going on here? I go outside and you command people to uproot my trees. I come inside and you're on the bed with my wife. And says the king, what, do you also want to subdue my wife in the house? And then Charvona speaks up. He says, by the way, Haman, he made a tree 50 amas tall to hang Mordechai. Why don't you hang Haman? Amr Belazar says, Belazar af Charvona Rasha Ba'osa Eitzo Haya. So says Belazar, Charvona was no tzaddik. He was also a nudnik. But once he noticed that Haman was not the winning horse, so Miyad Barach, he immediately switched sides and joined the Esther team. And this is what the pasuk says: that he'll throw upon him and have no mercy and run away. That Kilu Charvona was in the Haman camp until he saw that Haman's camp was falling apart, and he just quickly jumped into the Esther camp. And the king's anger subsided. What does it mean shachacha, which is like a double language? So one is referencing to God's anger, and the other one is talking about his own anger, Achashverosh's anger. The other ways say no, they're both talking about Achashverosh's anger, but one is the anger that he had initially harbored because of what happened with Vashti, and then what happened with Esther. And after Haman was kind of eliminated, so then he was able to kind of chill out a little bit, as they say. Alright, friends, going weiter. That it says by Yosef HaTzadik, when the brothers came with Binyamin, so he gave everybody clothing, but to Binyamin, he gave 5 times the amount. Is it possible that the same thing that caused Yosef such trouble, he would do the same thing? Let's see, does it go weiter? The Omer Rava, by Mechasya, Omer Recham Barguria Merav, Bishvil Mishkol Shnei Sloyim, Meila Shehosef Yaakov LiYosef Mishar Echov, that because of the value of 2 coins worth of fine wool that Yaakov Avinu gave to Joseph more than all the other brothers, Niskalgal Adover, one thing led to the next, V'yardu Avosenu L'Mitzrayim, and the Yidden ended up in Egypt, right? So, meaning, Yosef knows very much about the dangers of favoritism, right? Because he was favored, so his brothers sold him into slavery, and want the whole thing. So why would he then give Binyamin 5 times as much as everybody else? It's like they're starting it all over again. Binyamin Bar Yefes had gesagt, Ramaz Lo, that Joseph was it was a metaphor. He was hinting. She'asid ben lotzes mimenu sheyetze milifnei hamelech b'chamisha levushe malchus. I'm sorry. What did I say? She'asid ben lotzes mimenu sheyetze milifnei hamelech b'chamisha levushe malchus. That by giving Benjamin 5 times the amount, by 5 articles of clothing, he was alluding to the fact that in the future Mordechai, who was a descendant of Benjamin, would go before Achashverosh wearing 5 garments of royalty. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Mordechai yotzu b'levush malchus tcheles v'gomer, that Mordechai went before Achashverosh with levush malchus tcheles v'chor v'ater zov g'dola v'sachrich bus v'argomon, and of course v'yershushan tzalav v'samichavei palatzavi Binyamin ochiv, and Joseph fell on the necks of Benjamin, his brother. Kamatzavaran ha'avulei. How many necks did Benjamin have? The Binyamin. So Omer Rebelazar says, Rebelazar bacha al shnei mikdashim shasidin lios bechelkol shal Binyamin vasidin lechariv. Joseph was crying about the 2 temples that in the future will be in the portion of Benjamin in Eretz Yisrael and will be destroyed. Binyamin bacha al tzavarav, and Benjamin cried on Joseph's neck. Bacha al Mishkan Shiloh, he cried about the tabernacle in Shiloh, Sha'asa Lios Bechalkol Shal Yosef, that was going to be in Joseph's portion of Eretz Yisrael, Ve'asa Lecharev was going to be and will be destroyed. V'nei Nechem rose, Ve'eni Achi Binyamin, and Joseph says to his brothers, that your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin. Amr Belazar, Amr Loim, says Belazar, that Joseph said to his brothers, just like I have nothing against Benjamin my brother, that he was not present at my sale when I was sold, I have nothing in my heart against you fellows. It is my mouth that is speaking to you, that just like my mouth, so too is my heart, that is of pure intent. That and Joseph sent to his father 10 donkeys filled with the greatest stuff of Egypt. What's the greatest stuff in Egypt? That Joseph sent to his father old wine. That the old people like old wine, apparently. The mice young people do too. What do you want me to tell you? Vayelchu gam Echov and his and the brothers went Vayipu Lefanov, and they fell before Joseph, and they say that we are slaves before you. Right? It was after Jacob died, so the brothers went before Joseph, and then because they got nervous that now the big punishment was coming. So Amar Binyam Bar Yefes, Amar Belazar, Hanudame Inshe. This is what the people say: Taila beidone sagidle. That when you have a fox, but the time is right for him, so bow down to him. So Kilu, they were bowing down to Joseph because he was like a fox that things were going well for. Taila ma'ib siruse me'achva. To which the Gemara asks, I don't understand. Meaning, the metaphor to a fox would be, the analogy to a fox would be Kilu, a situation where a fellow isn't actually worthy, but Lamaisa, he's in a place of power or whatever it is, so you have to give him honor. But what makes Joseph any less worthy than any of the other brothers in this position? Ella, let's go weiter for a second. Yitmar stated in the following way, that it says that at the end, right, in the first aliyah of Parshas Vayechi, so when Yaakov Avinu was sick and he called for Joseph, so it says that Yaakov Avinu, he bowed down to Joseph. So in that context, Amar Binyam Bar Yefes, Amar Belazar Taila Bidani Sagile, that a fox, when when he's on the platform, when things are going well for him, bow down to him. Kilu. Now in this context, obviously Jacob shouldn't be bowing down to Joseph. I mean, he's the father, he's Yaakov Avinu. Why should he be bowing down to Yosef? But the point is that even a fox, when things are, when he's having an up streak, so, bow down to him. Alright? By Nachim Osam, by Daber Alibam, and Joseph consoled his brothers and he spoke to their hearts. Omer Binyam Bar Yefes, Omer Rebelazar Melamicha, Omer Loim, Devarim Shemiskablin Alalev. So Joseph said to his brothers things that would be accepted on the heart. Umaseres Neris, Lo Yochlu, Nechabos Nerechod, Nerechod, Heach Yochul, Lechabos Asar Neris. If 10 candles were unable to put out one flame, how could one flame be able to put out 10 candles? If my 10 brothers were unable to eliminate me, how can I eliminate my 10 brothers? So that's what he told them. So then, getting back to the Purim story, it says that to the Jews, there was light, there was happiness, there was rejoicing, there was yikar. I don't know, what do you want me to tell you? Good stuff. Amr, Rav Yehuda says, Rav Yehuda, Orez o Torah. Ho, light is Torah. V'cheinu Omer, similarly, it says, Kiner mitzvah v'Torah, or that a mitzvah is like a candle, and Torah is like light. Simcha is a Yom Tiv. Happiness is the festivals, is Yom Tiv. V'cheinu Omer, and similarly it says, V'samachta b'chagecha, you shall be happy on your festival. Sasun zomila, rejoicing is bris milah. V'cheinu Omer, and similarly it says, Sasanochi al imrosecha, that I rejoice al imrosecha, on that which you said. And to Avram Avinu, in the context of bris milah, it says, right, Omer, to say. So, okay, what do you want me to tell you? Vikar elu tefillin. And splendor, splendor, that sounds like a nice translation. That is the phylacteries, that's the tefillin. Omer, and similarly it says, V'ro kol ami ha'aretz, and all of the nations of the land will see, Kishem Hashem nikra alecha, that the name of God is called upon you, V'yaru mimeka, and they will be fearful of you. V'tanya, Rabbi Eliezer Agadol Omer El Tefillin Shebarosh, and says Rabbi Eliezer that this is taka a reference to tefillin. All right, what do you want me to tell you? Bes Parshandasa v'Gomer Aseres b'nei Haman. So in the Megillah, there is all of the children of Haman. All right, Omer Vada de Min Yafo, says of Ada from Yafo. Aseres b'nei Haman va'aseres tzarich l'merminu b'neshima achas. So the 10 names of Haman's children plus the word following it, which is Aseres, so you have to say in one go, one breath, right? If you ever noticed the fellow who reads the Megillah, so he says all the names in one breath. Lots of Balkores tend to say it really, really fast. I imagine it's just shtick, unless I'm missing something. You just have to say it in one breath. I mean, one breath is plenty of time to say those names. But people go like really fast. I think it's like I think it's like a cool thing. Like if you could do it really fast, you're really cool. I don't do it that fast. Let's go weiter. Fine. Beneshima achas. So my timer kulu bahade adadi nafki nishmasayu. It's because they all died at the same time. Yikes. Omer Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, vav de vaizoso. When it says vaizoso, so the vav there in tzarich le mimtacha bizkifa. You have to make it longer. Kemordaya de livros, like a pole that you use in the Libros River. Friends, let's move on. My timer, how come kulu b'chad zkifa is dakifu? Thanks for the imagery, Gemara, because all of them, all 10 sons of Haman, were hanged on the same pole, one on top of the other. Very beautiful. Let's move on. Amr b'chanina by Papa, Darsh b'shila ish kfar tamrusa, kol ashiros kula nichtovos ariach al gabi levena, ulevena al gabi ariach. All of the songs in the Torah are written with a ariach al gabi levena, so kilu a column under a with a space on top of a space and a space on top of a column, right? If you look, for example, at Oz Yashir in the Torah, right? So they're basically, right, there's like one line will be like, I don't know, word space word, and then the next one will be space word space, right? That kind of a thing. Chutz mishir zo, to the exception of this song Umalchi Kna'an, as well as Umalchi Kna'an Shariach al Gabe Ariach Levena al Gabe Levena. That in this case it's written in kind of a different way, but it's sort of words on top of words and space on top of space. By time that there shouldn't be any up, rising up from their fall, right? The 10 sons of Haman, so they're all written, right? Ve'es parshandasa, ve'es dalsphon, ve'es aspasa, ve'es. What comes next? Oridasa, whatever, I don't know. Parmashta, ve'es aridai, ve'es arizai, ve'es vaizasa, akoponim. So I skipped a whole bunch, I think. But it says ve'es on one side and then the name on the other. So okay, what do you want me to tell you? So there's no, it's like there's a cliff. If you fall off, you're gonna fall just all the way down and not get back up. As opposed to like the other songs, right? There's like a space on top of a word and a word on top of space. So if you fall off, you'll land on like a word or something. Friends, let's move on. Vayomer Melech leEsther Malka. The king says to Queen Esther, B'Shushan Abira Hargua Yehudim V'Gomer, that in the capital city of Shushan, so the Jews killed all these people. Amr Babo, says Babo, Malamit Shabba Malach V'Sitra Alpiv, that an angel came and hit him on his mouth. Alright, because I guess he started talking about how the Jews were killing everybody, but then he ends up, if you look at the end of the pasuk, it says, what does it say? And then, so Kili gets hit in the mouth by like an angel, and then he's like, well, what else can I do for you? And when Esther came before the king, he said with the book, Omar Amra Mibayile, it should say that she said. So what's he said? So Amr B'Yochanan Amr Lo, Ye Amr B'Peh Mashakosu B'Sefer. So she said that it should be written verbally, that which is written in the that which is written down. I believe that means that we need to read the Megillah. All right, what do you want me to tell you? Okay. 1 second. Okay, so we have to read the Megillah from a scroll. All right. Tivishalom ve'emes, words of peace and truth. That sounds very nice. Words of peace and truth. That sounds nice. Words of peace and truth. That you have to sort of make lines on the Megillah scroll like the truth of the Torah, right? In the Torah there's lines, you etch lines into the parchment, so also for the Megillah. Umaimer Esther Kiyam, okay, so the words of Esther, so Kiyam, right, Umaimer Esther Kiyam Simea Purim Eila or something, right? Kiyam, I think, Umaimer Esther Kiyam is Divrei Purim Eila, yeah, the words of this Purim, okay. Umaimer Esther and Divrei Atzomos Lo, was it just the words of Esther, but not all their fasting? That no, right? The previous pasuk ends with the Divrei Atzomos v'Zai Kosam, and then it says Umaymer Esther Kiyam Divrei Purim was taka both. All right. Ki Mordechai Yehudi Mishnah L'Melech Achashverosh v'Gadol HaYehudim. That Mordechai the Jew was the deputy to the king Achashverosh v'Gadol HaYehudim. He was very big for the Jews. And he was sort of popular among most of his brethren. The Rov Echov to most of his brethren, but not to all of them. That some of the Sanhedrin, some of the members of the Sanhedrin distanced themselves from Mordechai, period. Because they didn't like that he was getting involved in politics. Amr Yosef says of Yosef that studying the Torah is greater than saving souls. Because initially when Mordechai was listed with other people, he was the fourth on the list. But after the Purim story, he then became the fifth on the list. It says in one pasuk, Asher Boim Zerubbabel, that they came with Zerubbabel, Yeshua Nechemiah Sarya Realya Mordechai Bilshon. That first came Yeshua Nechemiah Sarya Realya, and then Mordechai Bilshon in the number 4 spot. L'sof Ksiv Haboim Zerubbabel, Yeshua Nechemiah Azariah Ramya Nachmani, and then Mordechai Bilshon. So he got moved to the 5th spot. Okay. What do you want me to tell you? Omer Rav v'Itemer of Shmuel Bar Marta Gadol Talmud Torah Yosem Binyan Beis Hamikdash Shua, that studying the Torah is greater than building the holy temple. Shekol Zman Shebaruch Ben Neriah Kayim Lo Inicho Ezra v'Allah, that as long as Baruch Ben Neriah was around, Ezra did not leave him to go to Eretz Yisrael. Only once Baruch Ben Neriah passed away, Ezra went to Eretz Yisrael to build the temple. Friends, that was Daf Tef Zayin, Daf 16 of Masechta Megillah. Again, we just went weiter in the Purim story. We discussed when Haman went to Mordechai to schlep him around town and scream out like, everybody look at Mordechai, and that whole thing. And discuss sort of starting to wrap up the Purim story, and tomorrow we're actually going to wrap up the first parak of Masechta Megillah. Friends, as always, I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day. Peace out.